what's your advice or take on like why should marketers care about Hollywood storytelling in the first place?
I think the reason is that when you use story in a marketing campaign of some kind, so let's stay in the world of internet marketing for a minute, although we could translate it into other things. But let's say you're sending out an email, or you've created a blog, or you're giving a presentation to an audience, and the goal of those devices, if you will, those situations, is always to persuade the audience to take some action. You want them to buy your product. You want them to sign up for your membership site. You want them to click and go to your landing page so you can get their email address. You want to, or sometimes you want to inspire them. You're not trying to make money necessarily, but you're on the stage saying, this is how you can live better. Anytime you're trying to persuade someone to do something, the decision they make to take that action is going to be based on how they feel, not what they think. Okay? There's a motto I heard recently from Kevin Rogers, who's a copywriter and very successful in the copywriting world, including IM and so on. And his phrase is, logic tells, emotion sells. And so the content of your email, your speech, whatever it is, you want to include some data. Data meaning we have this much of a rating on Amazon, or we have all these testimonials, or we have generated this many $1 million for our clients, or things like that. Okay, it's just this is going to back up our claim that we know what we're doing, or this is a valuable product. Okay, that's good, but at some point, if you don't make your audience or your prospect feel something, you're not going to flip that switch that makes them say yes. I mean, think about the last time you bought a car. Okay, I think my guess is you either just went and bought one and thought that looks good, or you go into the dealership, or you go to a consumer magazine or Motor Trend and you say, okay, what are the statistics? You know, what rating does it have? How fast can it go? You have all that data, but the salesman will always try and do something to say, can you imagine yourself driving this car? Or you'll think to yourself, if you read the data, wow, I can picture myself going that fast. Now they're starting to feel something. So you want to create an emotional experience. That's what's persuasive. And so if you're wondering, well, how do I create emotion? My suggestion is look at the most successful industry in the world at creating emotion. Hollywood is the emotion picture capital of the world. I mean, that's what they do on big or small screens. They get butts in seats. They get people to buy tickets or flip to the channel or tune in because they know they're going to feel something. And if they go see a Tom Cruise movie, they go because they either like Tom Cruise, that's a feeling, or they know a Mission Impossible movie is going to be exciting. Excitement is not data. Excitement is a feeling. So you want to use the techniques Hollywood uses to create that emotional experience in the way you tell the story. First of all, in deciding to tell a story, and then in knowing what the process is or what the structure of that story should be, what it should contain.
So it's your advice that I should perhaps then consider picking a customer as the hero of the story and then building the story around the customer.
I have two answers to that. The first, the easier answer is you should start by formulating two really good stories. One is a story about a satisfied customer, a success story for someone who has used your product. They've worked with you as a coach, if that's what you're selling. They've bought your product, if that's what it is. They've joined your membership, if that's what it is. A satisfied customer story. You should have another story about you. a story about you, and that is usually, it doesn't always going to be this way, but it's usually an origin story about how you came to create the product you're selling, or how you got involved in selling the product you're selling, or how you learned the skill you have that you are now putting up for sale. The second answer is, I strongly question your premise that there would be somebody who was a big success but doesn't have any difficulty to put into that kind of story. I mean, I'd like, if all of you watching this were in a room together, I'd say raise your hand if you've been hugely successful at marketing a product or service and you never encountered any obstacles in getting there. And I'd be very skeptical of any hands that went up, okay? Unless they think they're Napoleon or something, because I've never heard of such a thing. I mean, it takes work and it takes effort. Now, I think what you're thinking is that if I didn't almost die, or if I'm not coming back from being a drug addict, or if I didn't lose my whole family in a plane accident or something like that, it's not going to be a good story. That's not true. When it comes to conflict, it's not about how it might be measured in the newspaper. Conflict means seemingly insurmountable obstacles that your hero faces, but it only matters if they're insurmountable to the hero, okay? It doesn't matter if the outside world, if it makes front page news. That's not what you're looking for. Remember, you're creating a hero that your audience, your reader, is going to empathize with. Once you've established that, we're invested in whatever the character wants. Any obstacle that becomes difficult for that character is going to be emotionally involving, and it's going to make it a good story. So I'll give you two examples. One is, I already mentioned, I sat a client yesterday trying to get, and they're marketing a school. They want people to enroll in this. It's a professional school to teach a particular skill in the manufacturing area. Okay, so what we did is we picked the story of someone who was struggling because this character was taking care of mother and a sibling and couldn't get a good job because didn't have that much education, so barely could make ends meet, wasn't able to spend any money, and so on. Okay, you're never going to see a front page story about that in any newspaper unless it's a celebrity and they're telling where did you come from, because that's common. I mean, there's millions of people who struggle to make ends meet and would like to have a better job. It doesn't make it a bad story. It makes it a fine story because we empathize with it, but because someone in that situation getting a high-paying job is going to seem impossible. And the obstacles they have to overcome are clear and emphasized in the story. So and everybody had that. Maybe you in marketing your product, when you design your product, maybe you weren't even poor, maybe you were well-to-do, but you had a mission. You really wanted to help people. And the problem with that is there wasn't a way to get unpolluted water to 1 million people in Central Africa. Okay, that sounds impossible, a lot of obstacles to that, but I don't know. If you talk to Bill Gates, he's not going to say, oh yeah, it was easy street. It was, I came up with Microsoft and the rest I just skated through. That would be ridiculous. Now, it might look from the outside, well, what could he have to complain about? No, that's because he's at the other end of that story. He's in his aftermath, but how he got to where he got involves obstacles. You just have to find those. You just have to ask yourself, okay, what made it difficult for me to do this? Whatever it was, that's what you want to include, because whatever it was is probably similar to the difficulties someone else is having in the problem you're solving. So that part of the value of that, how I created my product or how I got involved, is not only do we empathize more, and does it bring us closer to you as the seller of this service or this product, it also builds trust in you and so on, but it also makes for a good story, because probably the reason you wanted to create this product or develop this service or latch onto this product is because you face the same kind of problem that your market faces now. Probably, let's say instead of selling baby care products or apparel, you created a line of baby apparel because you yourself couldn't afford, because probably you couldn't afford good baby apparel. You said there must be a better way, and so you created it. Okay. Now that's going to be, it's going to be a kind of a satisfied customer but instead of a customer, you created it because you faced the very problem you're now solving for others.